It had been weeks since I laughed, baby. The kind of weeks where every day feels grey, and the quiet in the house sounds too loud. I'd wake up, make my tea, stare out the window, and just sit. The chair across from me was empty now. Used to be filled with laughter, stories, and the smell of my late husband's cologne. But now, it was just me, the ticking clock, and a house that had forgotten what joy sounded like. I didn't tell nobody how heavy my heart felt. My son called sometimes, talking about bills and meetings, but never asked how I was doing. My daughter sent texts, short ones, polite ones, but the kind that don't leave space for a real answer. I smiled through it all, told them, Mama's fine. But truth was, I hadn't been fine in a long while. Then one Saturday morning, I heard a knock on my door. I wasn't expecting no one. I shuffled over, my old slippers dragging against the floor, and when I opened that door, there she was. My granddaughter, Ava, 10 years old, grinning like sunshine itself, holding a big pink box with ribbons hanging off the sides. "Grandma!" she shouted, and before I could say a word, she ran in and wrapped her arms round me so tight I thought my heart might start beating again for real. I blinked back tears and said, "Baby, what are you doing here?" She giggled. "Daddy dropped me off. He said you needed company, but I told him you needed laughter." Lord, that child had no idea how right she was. She pulled me to the kitchen and said, "Let's bake something." I told her I didn't have much in the pantry, but she didn't care. We mixed what we could, flour flying, sugar spilling. And before I knew it, my kitchen was full of laughter again. She told me stories about school, about how she wanted to be a singer, and how she got in trouble for telling her teacher that rules were just suggestions. I laughed so hard my stomach hurt, and it felt like breathing after holding my breath for months. Later that evening, we sat on the porch watching the sun melt into the trees. She leaned on my shoulder and whispered, "Grandma, why do you look sad sometimes?" I took a deep breath, trying to choose my words carefully. Because when you get older, baby, you start missing the sounds of the people who used to fill your house. But today, you brought those sounds back. She smiled, eyes shining with mischief. "Then I guess I'll have to visit more often. Can't have Grandma turning into a grumpy old lady." I burst out Logan again, louder this time. I hadn't realized how much I'd missed my own laughter until I heard it spill out like that. When my son came to pick her up, he looked surprised to see the oven still warm, the kitchen messy, and me humming a gospel tune. "Mama," he said, "you look happy." I smiled at him, wiped my hands on my apron, and said, "Your daughter reminded me of something important today." He tilted his head. "What's that?" "That life don't stop giving you joy. You just stop opening the door to let it in." That night, when the house went quiet again, it didn't feel empty. It felt peaceful. I sat by the window, the stars blinking back at me, and whispered, "Thank you, Lord, for sending laughter back home." Now every weekend, Ava visits. Sometimes we bake, sometimes we dance, sometimes we just sit on the porch telling stories. But every time she leaves, the house don't feel lonely anymore, it feels alive. Because laughter, once it finds its way back, don't ever really leave again. Moral: even the heaviest heart can heal when love and laughter knock at the door. Don't close it. Let them in.